Hi everyone, my name is Matt Williams. I'm the Access Fellow here at Jesus College at the University of Oxford. Access Fellow means that I'm an academic. I teach politics here, but it also means that I try and make the college more accessible to people, which usually means inviting 3 or 4 school groups a week to come and have a tour around the city. But unfortunately, because of the COVID-19 pandemic, we can't do that at the moment. So what I thought I'd do instead was give you a bit of a tour around the city that you can look at anywhere. So this is the second quad of Jesus College, quite typical of an Oxford college, right in the city centre. We're expanding, so I don't know if you can see above my head there's a very big crane which is doing quite a lot of work to build a new quadrangle for us. This quad is where the students live. It's also where the tutors have their offices. I'm often asked quite a reasonable question as to what is so special about Oxford University. It's a good question because actually it's not as obvious as you might think. I think a lot of people lionise Oxford and Cambridge as particularly special universities without actually really being sure why they're so special. And in the UK we've actually got loads of really special universities, so we need to be absolutely clear what it is that makes them particularly unique. And one of the key features to my mind is the tutorial system, which is how we teach students in both Oxford and Cambridge. What we do is that when I teach politics, for example, I would never teach in a class size larger than 2 or 3. And that is very unusual. You'll only find that in Oxford and Cambridge. The reason being is because it's a very inefficient system. It costs a lot of money, but it's money that we spend, the university. So it doesn't cost any more in fees to study at Oxford or Cambridge as it would cost to study at any of the other so-called Russell Group universities in the UK. But we spend out of our own money, we invest in the students so that they can have that teaching. So that's the special feature, and you won't find that at any other universities. Anyway, let's move through Jesus College. You might reasonably want to know why the college is named after Jesus. The reason is that when it was founded 450 years ago, its primary task was to train clergy, so religious leaders that would go in particular into Wales, so sometimes known as the Welsh College. And given its religious purpose, it had a religious name, and quite a lot of the colleges retain religious names for that reason. They're not currently engaged in that activity, so these days the colleges are entirely secular, but they retain that historical name. It's also worth understanding why there are colleges of any description whatsoever. Why do we have colleges? Well, there are 38 colleges, actually 39. 39th college was opened in 2020 called Parks College. And again, the reason is historical. The colleges at Oxford were formed over about 900 years with different benefactors opening different autonomous colleges at different points in history. And they did so for various reasons, although for much of history they were religious reasons. So you can see over here, this is the college chapel. Most of the colleges do still have chapels, but as I say, we are welcoming institutions. We have students from about 140 different countries from all over the world, and your religion, your faith, your sexuality, your race, your gender, all of that sort of stuff is not relevant to us, and we are welcoming applicants from all over the world. So I'm just going to come out the gates of Jesus College now and head on to Turl Street. Okay, so now we are on Turl Street, and we've got the lovely Exeter College over here, and further down the street you can see Lincoln College. They are named respectively for the bishops of Exeter and Lincoln. Again, speaking to the historic past of the city. I'm just going to walk very short distance down Brasenose Lane to the central square, Radcliffe Square, University. So we just come down this way. I might fast forward a little bit here so that you don't have to watch me walk the entire distance. Okay, so this is called Radcliffe Square. It's named after the Radcliffe Camera, which is a reading room. It contains English and history books. It's named after John Radcliffe, who was an important science benefactor in the 18th century. He donated a lot of money to the university. The University Hospital, the John Radcliffe, is still named after him. It's actually a part of the Bodleian Library. We're going to head into the Bodleian Library now. Bodleian is the university's central library. It's a copyright library, meaning that by law it has a right to everything published in the United Kingdom. I'm just going to head in here so that you can have a look. So the Bodleian holds about 9 million books and about 2 million other articles. It pulls in about 200 or 300 new books or items every week, as I understand it, because, as I say, literally everything that's published in the UK comes to the library, and by everything I mean everything. They have every copy of the Beano, they have every copy of Playboy magazine. They also, of course, have lots of important academic items. They've got the first folios of Shakespeare, they've got the Gutenberg Bible, they've got all sorts of wonderful things. There's a few colleges around us, so this one over here with lots of spikes and 2 towers at the back is called All Souls. A special college just for fellows. Fellows, despite the name, can be men or women, and they are the tutors of the university, so that is just a college for tutors. It's quite unusual. Next to it you can just see the corner of Hertford College, and over here you can see Brasenose College and the Gardens of Exeter. So we're just going to walk around the square now. So here's a nice view of All Souls College, and you can see the 2 towers in the back very clearly there. They are known to posterity as the Ivory Towers. So if you've ever heard the saying, climb down from your ivory towers, it's those towers there that are being referred to. So there's a really interesting story here. Oxford has a number of renowned writers associated with it, people like Iris Murdoch and J.R.R. Tolkien. And the story here is with regards to C.S. Lewis, Clive Staples Lewis, who came to Oxford from Northern Ireland. And when he came, he was an atheist originally, but he was converted to Christianity by J.R.R. Tolkien. And one Christmas time they came together here to the Church of St. Mary to pray together. And Lewis recalls walking in through these doors and it being a fairly ordinary winter's day, but as they came out, he said it was a bit like trying to squeeze your way out of a wardrobe because so many people had left their winter coats in the way here. And once he'd squeezed his way out, he'd found that snow had fallen all on the ground, and he looked to the side and he saw that lamppost over there covered in snow, and he saw ahead of him what he thought was the image of a lion and 2 wood nymphs that look a lot like who we now know as Mr. Tumnus in his books, The Chronicles of Narnia. And he came up with all of that on this spot here. Now we're coming out onto the high street, so we can see a few more colleges up ahead. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to skip across the road and hop down one of the side streets so you can see some of the colleges further to the south of the city. So just ahead on the other side of the road you might be able to see University College, which is the oldest, or claims to be the oldest college at the university. It's actually contested. And on the left hand side of the road is Queen's College. So ahead you can see the Tower of Merton College Chapel. And just on the right you can see the corner of Oriel College. Just about to head onto Merton Street. Merton's another one of the very old colleges. It dates back to the 13th century. It has, I'm told, the best food in Oxford because one of its former students is the now Emperor of Japan, and he thought the food there was dreadful, so he gave them loads and loads of money to make sure that they had really nice food for the rest of recorded time. So they have good food, but it doesn't cost very much. I should note that you absolutely don't need to be a prospective Emperor of Japan to study here. As I mentioned, not only do we accept applications from all over the world, but we also accept and indeed welcome applications from all sorts of different backgrounds, and we work very hard with people from very underprivileged backgrounds because, of course, they have just as much a capacity for brilliance and just as much a right to access these corridors of power as anybody else does. I'm heading now towards Merton Fields and Christchurch Meadow, just so you can get a bit of a sense of how green central Oxford can be. So here at the Merton Sports Field, so right next to the college, you can see the college is just there through the trees, and over in the distance you can see the tower of Magdalen College, and over here behind us you can see the cathedral. This is the City Cathedral, which is also a part of Christchurch College, and we're looking at the gardens of Christchurch College right here. the gardens were actually won off Corpus Christi College in a gambling match years ago. So Corpus Christi is behind the trees there, and this used to be their garden, but it was basically taken away from them by Christchurch, who frankly didn't need the space, but never mind. They won it fair and square. And this is Christchurch Meadow over here, and on the other side of the meadow is the River Thames, and that's where rowing takes place. Okay, this is the side of Christchurch College. I'm just going to walk all the way around it. It's one of the larger colleges in terms of its physical size, but it isn't that much larger in terms of population. Most colleges take about 100 students every year, give or take, and so they're quite small communities, and that has some enormous advantages. It means that you're very close to the people around you, very close to your tutors, very close to your peers. If you're getting into any trouble, be it academic, personal, pastoral, etc., financial, then you can be very quick to identify it and help you out. How can you choose a college is a common question I'm asked. Well, the key thing to remember is that the academic degree is administered by the university, so you get the same degree regardless of which college you go to, and the academic facilities of the university are available to everyone, as are bursaries and scholarships that the university provides for people from impoverished backgrounds. So none of that differs from college to college. There are some differences in the facilities of each college in terms of their housing, in terms of their library facilities. Maybe some have a gym, some don't. Some can house you for the whole of your degree, some can't. Some have more money to provide even more support for disadvantaged students than others. But these differences are really marginal, and probably the most important differences between the colleges are actually not that important really. They're to do with location, style of architecture, food, but all of these differences are so minor that I wouldn't worry about them too much. And you can ultimately make no choice at all and just put in an open application and allow the university to decide for you. So here we can see Tom Tower. It's a very famous part of Christchurch College. It was designed by Christopher Wren in neo-Gothic style. And there's the college dining hall up there, which was the inspiration for the dining hall in the Harry Potter films. And you can probably see why. So if you look opposite Tom Tower, down here you can see Pembroke College. Okay, from this angle you can much better see the crane building the new quad for Jesus College. We're coming along the back of it now. As you can see, we were very lucky to be able to develop part of central Oxford. Most of the older colleges that are in the middle of the city don't have any room to grow, but we had this large area of land that we could develop, and we're making into a whole new quadrangle. It's going to have loads more space for housing our students and new teaching space, and we're going to have a gym on site for the first time. We're going to have a digital hub and all sorts of cool things, so that's all going to be there in time for our 450th anniversary celebrations next year. This Tudor building on the corner is one of the oldest parts of Jesus College. It's where I do quite a lot of my teaching, up on the top floor there. So the tutorials I give for politics with 2 or 3 students, they would happen up there. It's a really nice place. We often get buskers down below, which makes it quite a nice atmosphere. Because as you can see, we're right in the centre of things. And if you just turn left up there, you'll find the Oxford Union, which is where quite a lot of aspiring politicians cut their teeth. Okay, so just over here you can see Balliol College. Balliol has a really interesting history with regard to the European Union. It has formed 4 prime ministers in its history, and they have in various ways been involved with the foundation of the European Union. The first one, H.H. Asquith, was the prime minister during the First World War, and therefore oversaw some of the destruction of continental Europe. The second Prime Minister from here fought in that war. He was Harold Macmillan, and he, tragically, was the only student undergraduate to return to Balliol College after the war from the front lines. So can you imagine being literally the only survivor who comes back from a war, how that would affect your psyche? And he therefore pushed for Britain's membership of the European Union in the 1960s when he was Prime Minister, because he felt it was essential to our security. Another student who went on from Balliol College to become Prime Minister was Ted Heath, who was the man who was ultimately successful in obtaining our membership of the European Union in 1973. He had travelled to Germany just before the Second World War. He'd seen the Nazis speak, and he was so horrified by what he saw that he campaigned vocally at the Oxford Union, which, as I said, was just over there, for Britain to come out fiercely against appeasement. And then more recently, the current Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, was a student at Balliol as well, back in the 1980s, and he's the man that, of course, many would suggest took us out of the European Union. So it's quite a weird thing to realise, but one college produced 4 Prime Ministers, all of them intimately involved with Britain's relations in continental Europe. So that's the Martyrs' Memorial. It's memorialising to men that were burnt to death on Broad Street back in the 1600s. And here you can see the Ashmolean Museum, which is the world's first public museum and is still a very important part of the university. It has an interesting collection of mostly antiquities, but some modern art as well. And over on the right hand side of the road you can just see the corner of St John's College, which is the richest of the colleges. Has very large grounds as well. So the Egan Child pub that we just passed there is where the writers Tolkien and Lewis used to go and drink together and talk about what they were writing. This is St Benet's Hall. It's one of the 6 private halls. So as well as 39 colleges, Oxford also has 6 private halls, which perform all of the same functions of colleges, but they're just a lot smaller in population, and they have slightly different governance structures. They also don't offer the wide range of subjects that the colleges usually do, but they do offer quite a lot of subjects, so it's worth checking them out as well if you're applying. So this is Somerville College, and it is one of the previously women-only colleges at the university. There aren't any single-sex colleges left anymore. It's a very important college nonetheless, because one of its most famous tutors was a lady called Dorothy Hodgkin. She was a chemistry fellow, and she won the Nobel Prize for finding out the chemical structure of penicillin and insulin. And she's the only woman to win a Nobel Prize in Sciences in the UK. And as a chemistry tutor, she taught a lady called Margaret Roberts, who studied chemistry and is now better known as Margaret Thatcher, the Prime Minister. She's the only Prime Minister that Britain's ever had that had studied a science degree. And now we're heading a little bit further north, and we're coming across a place where Dorothy Hodgkin's work was put into practice here in what used to be the Radcliffe Infirmary and is now part of the Humanities Department. This is where penicillin was first made into a mass-manufactured drug. So taken from being just a mould to being something that could be mass-produced, because its chemical composition was known thanks to the work of Dorothy Hodgkin. And it's difficult to underestimate how important a step forward that was in terms of medicine, also in terms of sociology. Advances in penicillin improved infant mortality rates and maternal death rates, and so changed the role of women in society. So it's an absolutely astonishing achievement and contribution to humanity. And here we're coming across the Maths Institute. This is a fairly new building. And behind the Maths Institute is what's called the Radcliffe Observatory Quarter, or ROQ, which is at the moment a patch of empty land, which is why you can't see a great deal behind it, but will soon house the £150 million Schwarzman Centre for the study of the ethics of AI, which is really exciting. You can see see the observatory tower there, and it's going to be built around that, basically. Over on the right-hand side of the street, we can see St Anne's College. St Anne's was also a women's-only college, but is now completely mixed. It's got more modern architecture, but is otherwise just like any other Oxford college. I used to teach at St Anne's, and I've got very fond memories of the place. So just a little bit further up the road is St Hugh's College, which is the most physically remote college of all of the undergraduate colleges from the city centre, but it's only about a 15-minute walk, and as a result of being a little bit further out, it's got really nice big gardens, so many people choose it to escape a little bit from the bustle of the city centre. Just up ahead you can see St Anthony's College, which is one of the graduate colleges, so several of the colleges are just for those pursuing postgraduate degrees. Across the road here. On the other side of the road you can see Wycliffe Hall, named after the man who first translated the Bible into English. It's another one of the private halls. It specialises in theology. And now we're looping back towards the city centre, and we're going to be able to see many of the science departments, which are located just to the north of the city. You can see, for instance, on the skyline, physics and engineering departments just up ahead. Here's St Anne's College, the other side of it. So just down this road here is another college called Lady Margaret Hall, which has this really glorious location next to the river and next to University Parks, which is just over here, which is where the university's main sports fields are. It's also just a really beautiful large park. Also living down there is Tom York from Radiohead, which is pretty cool. Alright, we're going to sneak into the park, let you have a look. So just up ahead here on the right you can see the computer science department, and on the other side of the trees you'll be able to see it more clearly in a second is Keble College. It's quite distinctive style, it's got red brick rather than the usual Oxford sandstone. Directly opposite Keble is the brand new theoretical physics department, just up here. It's got huge dampness in the basement so that when they fire lasers they don't wobble every time a lorry drives past. Although the buildings look, and in many cases are, very old, don't forget that Oxford is absolutely at the cutting edge of everything as well. So that's the Museum of Natural History. And behind it is the Pitt Rivers Museum, which is an anthropological museum. And over there is the newest college of the university, Parks College, which is a graduate college, and it's going to be devoted to tackling the issues of climate change and managing artificial intelligence in particular. So this is Parks Road, and we're just about to come onto the corner of South Parks Road, which is where a lot of the university's science departments are, buildings all the way along here. So on the other side of this wall are the gardens of Wadham College, which is where the Royal Society was founded. The students of the college in the early 17th century and academics of the university, people like Robert Hooke and Christopher Wren, used to come here and perform experiments, and their natural philosophies, they used to call it, formed the basis of what we now know as the Royal Society. And as we get a bit closer, you'll be able to see the front of Wadham College, which is opposite the gardens and new developments at Trinity College, which you can see being built up here. Trinity College, and here's Wadham. And we're nearly back in the centre. So we're turning onto Broad Street now. There you can see the Sheldonian Theatre with the white cupola on top. Sheldonian is where we hold big ceremonies, things like matriculation and graduation. Okay, and we're back on Turl Street. So there's Jesus College, the big tree growing out of it. Here's Exeter College and their Anthony Gormley statue on the ceiling. I'm going to head back into the college. Okay, and we're back in Jesus College. I hope that's been interesting and helpful. If you do have any questions about the university or the colleges, or how you can visit, hopefully we'll be able to do that very soon. Then do get in touch. I'm matthew.williams@jesus.ox.ac.uk, and we'd love to help you out. Thank you so much for watching. All the best. Stay safe.